I'm not anti-Western medicine, like you said. So grateful, and I encourage whatever your belief system is, go that route. But understand that if you just kill the cancer with chemicals and radiation, and don't change anything about the environment, and then wiping out your immune system through that chemicals and radiation,
you're just going to keep bringing.
It's going to come back, and it's probably going to come back with a vengeance.
But again, it's such a different conversation to have with people, right? To say, oh, it's your emotional state that's given you a tumor. Some people might throw the middle finger up at that.
I asked him, well, why do people not heal when they work with you? Some people have these miraculous healings, and then other people don't heal. What have you learned about people that don't heal? And he says...
And so cool that there is a written out 10 steps that you have where you can actually look at them and understand them, because that's also overwhelming. Change my environment. What do you mean? How do I change my... I can't move my house.
Her physical body, because of a shift in consciousness, completely healed. And no, there's not a human being on this planet that could see her and think that she could come back to life. That shows the tremendous intelligence. If we get out of the way, but also support the intelligence of the human body with the right divine consciousness of who we really are, that's when miracles happen. But they're not really miracles. That's like how we're designed. That's how awesome. And that's how much possibility there is in every moment.
Oldish, the show where age-old questions meet new age answers. With your hosts, Randy Spelling, Brian Austin Green, and Sharna Burgess.
Kelly Gores, welcome to Oldish.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So exciting having you here.
We're so happy to have you here. So you have you did a documentary called Heal in 2017, which was huge. It was groundbreaking. You have a podcast, Heal with Kelly.
Yep.
And let's start with what got you into making that film, Heal?
Yes. Great question. I wish I had a better answer for it, because I'm asked all the time, and it's like,
well, we'll drag it out of you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's go.
It's really like a lifetime of little things along the way. But what turns me on and excites me is discovering human potential and not being kind of victims in this meaningless world, but learning how we're co-creators and what we actually have control over in our life, and manifestation and law of attraction and all of these things. And so prior to doing the documentary, I started learning about all these things, kind of just a personal growth,
Was there something that led you there in the first place? Did this come from something, or was it just kind of you woke up one morning and you were like, I really want to expand what I know so far?
Yeah. I mean, I think when I was in high school, I got sick, and I went on this camping trip with all these older kids, and my parents were like, okay, we'll let you go, but just don't get sick. And then I came home and got sick. I don't even know why they asked me that, but just because they knew there was drinking and stupid, choices involved. And so I was sick for a week, flu-like symptoms. It was kind of around the time of swine flu or something. It was just a really gnarly flu. They didn't know what it was. My glands never went down. So for months and months after, I had golf ball sized glands. And so they threw every antibiotic at me. Nothing worked. We didn't know the effects of antibiotics back then, the detrimental effects on the gut, et cetera. And then ultimately they did a lymph node biopsy at Kaiser, and I had this traumatic experience with an IV and general anesthesia, all this rigmarole for no answers, and they still didn't know. And then I went to my mother's chiropractor a few weeks later, and he felt my glands as they do, and he said, why don't you try swirling apple cider vinegar, gargling it for a week, and then I'll see you next week with your mom. Sure enough, after a year and a half of tests and antibiotics and surgeries, they went down.
Don't tell me that worked.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Apple cider vinegar. And so I think that planted the seed of doubt against Western medicine versus natural nature type medicine. So that was the seed planted. Then I went off to Berkeley and I was depressed, I guess, for the first time. But back then, I don't think people called it depression. But I was just like unhappy, and I had left sunny Southern California and went up there. Didn't really feel connected to my new friend group. I had such tight relationships here, and so I transferred to come back to the sunshine and my friends and my family. And during that time, I traveled to Australia with my brother. And someone handed me the book Return to Love by Marianne Williamson, who I ultimately put in the film, because this book just kind of like cracked open my spirituality. I was raised Catholic, and then in high school I kind of was basically agnostic or atheist. Like I was just questioning everything. I was like, no, it's just very simple, cause and effect, science, there's nothing beyond death, there is no God. I was just questioning everything. And then depression, and then this book, and it basically says you can either create heaven on earth if you come from love, and you create hell on earth in your experience if you come from fear. And it just resonated so deeply with me. So that kind of set me on this like spiritual path and of exploring the meaning of life and all of that. And then you go through your 20s. I was acting at the time. I was dating this guy. That was my mom's worst nightmare. He was like long hair, tattoos, drug user, drug seller, Harley Davidson.
I had
rider.
those.
Yeah.
I had those.
He nailed all of them.
I've heard about them.
Yeah.
I wasn't one of those guys, but no. But yeah. Okay.
Anyways, but he was like, had the Upanishads and like dancing Woolly Masters. Like he was this very interesting.
He had
human.
the Upanishads?
The Upanishads is like the spiritual text. Like he had this whole spiritual side of him, yet he was this total mess in his external life. And so when I broke up with him, I just like dove into my own spirituality and started meditating, and that opened me up. One nugget led to another. And then ultimately, like I started going to Agape, which is a spiritual center here in LA.
Michael Beckwith.
I
think I know someone else. Not that I'll share that on this podcast, but I think I know someone else that goes there too.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And it's like, it's a spiritual community that's trans-denominational, which means it transcends all denominations and teaches from all the masters from every religion and culture. And they have this bookstore, so I would just like devour these books in this bookstore, and I was either driving to auditions or training for marathons and just inundating my psyche with Wayne Dyer and Eckhart Tolle. And I remember picking up this book by Bruce Lipton called The Biology of Belief, and he talks about the science of epigenetics and how our genes are just a blueprint, and it's our beliefs and our environment that turns on and off genes and our subconscious beliefs. And I was like, oh my gosh, we're not victims of our genes. It's just a blueprint, but we have so much more control.
Which is radical to think about. And he actually showed that in the documentary, how he was doing stem cells at the very beginning, and he got the exact same stem cells, right? Do I have this right?
Yep.
And put them in 3 Petri dishes, and then added something like, which is the environment, would be a different type of blood, right? Totally just change the environment. And they all were different based on the environment.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, if they're the exact same cells, what is the difference? And it's really just the environment.
Correct. And so my mind just went, and that was like, I want to make a film and put in all my teachers that empowered me, because people would, this is years ago, because I am oldish. And
aren't we all, girl? Welcome. You are our people.
Thank you. And they were like, what are you eating? How are you so happy? How are you manifesting all this stuff? And so I'm like, I just want to put all my teachers that empowered me with this knowledge and frequency and understanding of energy and into a film to teach others. And then ultimately it became about physical health, as epigenetics might lead to, but it was really more of a spiritual consciousness motivation.
So as a filmmaker, you always have to look at what the purpose is. Like what is the audience going to wind up with? What would be the message of Heal that you really wanted people to know? Because I have my takeaways, I'm sure everyone else does, but what was that actual message?
Yeah, I think the intention and the message that I wanted people to take away from Heal was, we have more power than we've been led to believe. We just, through conditioning, I don't think any like evil intention, although some would argue with me in today's day and age, we've just been conditioned to give our power away to the guy in the white coat with the little black leather bag that's knows more than us. And it's just completely disconnected us from not only nature, but our own intelligence and intuition. And so we have more power over our health and our lives than we've been conditioned to believe. And we live in a world of infinite possibility, and to open people's awareness to how everything down to the subatomic quantum level is energy. And just like epigenetics, like our consciousness creates an environment that then, manifests into a reality that we experience. And so we can grab the reins of our mind and kind of co-create with life.
I love that.
It's so powerful.
Just taking responsibility. Like we talk about, just like truly being conscious in everything that you do.
Yeah.
Like grabbing control of everything that's around you and going, this is how I want it to be. This is what I want to believe, and stopping at nothing until you
I think it's also such a beautiful thing to be reminded that you do have control. We feel like we're in such a world where you listen to the man in the white coat and then you listen to the other guy over there about that thing. We feel like we're always under someone else's orders and being told what's right and wrong. We forget to have our own opinions, or to trust our own instinct, or to know how powerful we truly are in our own bodies. We're not brought up believing in that. And so to have that reminder and to be like, exactly what you said, you can do so much more, you are capable of so much more, is a really beautiful reminder for people, especially today.
Yeah, and also the reminder of the intelligence that the body has, the intelligence that is running through us. I know Dr. Joe Dispenza was in the documentary. He did the foreword to your book too. And he has a fascinating story. If you don't know it, he, I forget the year, but he was doing a triathlon or something. He was in the biking portion, and he got hit by a four-wheel drive car and got catapulted, compressed his spine. They said he was likely never going to walk again, but he needed this type of surgery where they were going to put, screws and bolts in. And he, I have an idea as to why, but he had some idea that if this intelligence created me this way, there's the same intelligence can heal me. And he went home. I mean, think about this. He went home, laid himself on his chiropractic table and couldn't move, and for 6 weeks used his mind to see the healing in the vertebrae. And he said he couldn't control his mind. He'd get 4 minutes, 5 minutes, and then he'd start thinking about winding up in a wheelchair. And he said he just kept going. Few people have the tenacity to do it like he did, but he kept going until he got longer and longer periods of time. And then at one point, he achieved it. He felt like he achieved it, and everything came into alignment. And 10 or 12 weeks later, he was off the table, walking around. A few weeks later, he was training again and literally dedicated his life. I mean, he does huge workshops and everything now.
Yeah.
That's so
I was
amazing.
in some of his workshops, and I mean, there's doctors there and scientists, and everyone is sitting there listening to him.
I feel like I've vaguely heard that story before, but that is unbelievable.
And the one piece he discovered along the way, because he was a chiropractor, so he had a general sense of how the spine was set up, so that helped the layer of work. But he didn't know that he was going to be able to accomplish it, but he was like, there's nothing else I can do.
Right.
Rather than sit here being depressed, I'm going to give my body the best structure it can to do what it knows how to do, which is heal itself in every moment. And then further down the line, as he kept getting, ripped away in fearful thoughts about the wheelchair, he started going, oh no, I'm going to actually consciously think of the things that I took for granted when I could walk, like standing up in a hot shower, which is awesome, but like until you get it taken away, you don't
Think about
appreciate
it, right?
Yeah.
Walking on the beach, toes in the sand, watching a sunset with a loved one, all these things. And so he started to feel those elevated emotions of gratitude and awe and love. And he said, that's the magic potion. Like, we can do visualization, but that
It's the
combine
mind.
it with the heart.
It's putting yourself in there. I know for me, when I was healing and going through all the neurological stuff that I did, it was so much of it was about the mind state for me, being in it, because there was the fear. It was like, oh my God, I'm learning how to like walk stairs again and do, I couldn't run, I couldn't speak, I couldn't read. It was like who am I? And instead of letting that depress me and bring me down, it was like, okay, I'm going to know that one day I'm going to be okay again. So I'm just going to continue to work hard and be thankful for every tiny step forward, because that's an accomplishment every single day. Like, God, I moved a little bit easier this time. And those things added up. And, it took 4.5 years. But I look back on it now, and it's like, that was such a small portion of my life.
Yeah.
At 4.5 years.
Yeah.
And thank God my mind was in the right place to be thankful for it.
It's still such an incredible concept to think the mind can heal the body, right? And I 100% believe in it. And I hope that more and more people do read your book, see your documentary, and follow along on this journey, because we talk often about nutrition, medicines. We just had another doctor on here that we talked about traditional versus or Eastern versus Western, all these different things. But to be able to take that control into your own body and away from all of that information is so powerful and awesome. And I think for many people is like, yeah, right. Like, I can heal my own body. Like, how can I possibly do that? So where is the place that someone can start diving into this? Like, where is at ground zero? How do they start finding that gratitude and that visualization to say, I'm going to heal my cystic fibrosis?
Mm-hmm. Oof. Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
I chose a really tough one for you to bring on. Like, but for anything big or small.
Right. I mean, understanding that, like, at a basic level, you break your bone, we seek outside of ourselves. So we go to the doctor, we get the x-ray, we see the doctor is educated on how to set the bone, which is just externally setting the bone so that it creates that structure for it to heal. But then the intelligence of the body is the one that knows how to fuse the bone and regenerate, tissue and everything like that. So just demonstrates the intelligence of the human body. Then you go to the placebo effect, which they've studied. The most, commonly talked about studies are antidepressants. And when they test to see the efficacy of these drugs on brain chemistry, they have to test, against a control or against a placebo.
They have to do a double blind.
Yes. So the scientists, they give two groups of people. Say one is an innate sugar pill that isn't going to have any effect on your body, and one is the actual drug. The scientists don't know. Double blind means that
they don't know which
group is which, so they can't affect it as an observer having an expectation. And the people taking the drugs don't know if they're in the group of the placebo, the group of thing. So what they found is sometimes like 50, 60, 70% of the people taking the sugar pill actually had the same brain chemistry changes as the ones taking the drug, which
that's fascinating.
Is without all the side effects.
Right, of course.
But it's because they are taking something that has meaning. So they've had a lifetime of taking vitamins, Advil, things that have a change on the body. Then they assign more deeper meaning, like this pill is going to make me happy or feel better. So they're doing something, the body is conditioned to go, oh, I'm taking something, it's going to have an effect. This is what the effect is, and then they're going to have an expectation. So that's a conscious energy of expectation of something that's going to happen. So they're starting to think about subconsciously, they're going to have a shift of state. But so it's not just, and then people say, well, that's just in their head, but it's actually not in their head, because the brain is the most incredible pharmacy. And the brain is actually releasing the same exact chemistry as the pill is inducing into the other group. So
it's so crazy.
It's crazy,
that's
the power of meaning and expectation and conditioning. And so, in an ideal world, it's like you give someone drugs to condition the body, and then you slowly start to wean them down and replace it with a sugar pill. So they still have that power to shift the state because they've been conditioned so deeply that this pill is going to help them, but then without the side effects.
Is it fair to say, like, first of all, modern medicine is absolutely incredible. What we can do is incredible. It's amazing. Deep gratitude for it. But is there also a place there where you say it's kind of made us lazy and not believe in ourselves that we can actually do these things? Like, I have a really bad headache. I'm going to pop some Tylenol. I know there's side effects to it, but it's going to work and it's going to give me the short-term effect that I want now, instead of knowing maybe I meditate, maybe I drink some water, whatever it is, give me 30 minutes, I can get rid of the headache. Is that fair to say it's kind of made us lazy, or is it just taken away our ability to know that we can do it ourselves?
Probably a little bit of both. But I think that, we're, conveniences are killing us.
I do it all the time. Yeah.
And it is. We've conditioned ourselves into getting the easy way out of things, But then life has a way. Life is intelligent. Just like there's a collective consciousness here, whether you call it God or
spirit
and source, and so it's just making me think earlier. It's like we are co-creators. There's a certain amount of control. We have more control. That's exactly what I said the mission of the film is. And there's also a greater intelligence of this plan that's unfolding for our lives and the life of the world. And at a certain point, like we don't really have control. So it's this fine line of like, we have control over how we respond to life. We have control over giving our power away and understanding and educating ourselves about energy and how everything works. But at a certain point, too, there's also, life is going to have a way of, if you're just getting down the lazy path and comforts and conveniences, it's going to wake you up to make you come at a crossroads. You're either going to do the work and come back into alignment with your potential, or you're going to go down that path.
And potentially that's what a lot of dis-ease in the body is for, right? It is a manifestation of, it could be emotional, it could be trauma, it could be various things that reaches a threshold, a culmination where it gets localized, it happens in the body, and then it is that wake-up call of, how do you handle this? How do you react to this? Because for a lot of people, that is a complete diversion. That is, their life is going one way, and then you get a big health scare, or you have to deal with something, and all of a sudden, everything gets put into perspective very quickly, and you have to look for solutions. You have to look for things to change, and for some people, not all, they look for what caused this. Why is this here? What do I need to see from this? And then it becomes a catalyst, right?
There's so many people, and I have so many people that have healed something that they were told perhaps they couldn't, and they all look back, 100% look back, and even though it was hell that they walked through 4.5 years, you wouldn't change a thing because I
would not be who I am now if I didn't go through those.
What you learned through it, of course.
So and with Western and Eastern and all of the holistic picture, it's like there's no one right or wrong way. There's decisions and they have consequences, but belief is important. So if you get diagnosed with cancer and you believe fully in Western medicine and can, like, the only way that's going to save you is chemo and radiation, like, I'm not allowed to give advice, or I'm not authorized to give advice or in any position to, but I would say, and most of the people that are holistic or conscious oncologists would say, do the thing that you believe in most of work, because belief is so important.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
then understand that there's consequences and effects that's going to have on your immune system and the rest of your healthy tissues. So we've got to do other things around it to support your immune system.
Of course.
And dis-ease is, your body is your greatest ally. And so often, part of this conditioning, for consumerism and consumption, we're taught that, like, our body's failing us. You need this thing to buy this thing to help. So we kind of turn against our bodies, or this autoimmune, our body's attacking itself. All of these things are like the smoke alarms going off. This cancer tumor is a symptom. It's your body's language trying to communicate with you that something is out of balance, whether it's you're in toxic relationship, whether you've gone out of alignment with your purpose here in life and you chose the safe path, whether there's toxins in your environment, whatever it is, it's this alarm bell going off to go, oh, something's out of balance. And, like, don't fight the cancer, kill the cancer. It's like, that cancer's part of you that's trying so hard to indicate, and through its own language, tell you that there's an imbalance here, and look at it and let's start to change things,
That's, I think, an incredibly important piece of information too, because so many people go, oh, my mum had cancer, or my grandparent had cancer. And I'm sure that is a genetic thing too. Markers can be passed. But to then just go, it is what it is, I'm going to battle it out, instead of going, oh, I wonder what's in my life that could be creating it. Maybe it's generational trauma. Maybe it's not actually a genetic thing, but something that's carried through in a different energetic way. But again, it's such a different conversation to have with people, right? To say, oh, it's your emotional state that's given you a tumor. Some people might throw the middle finger up at that and be like, what do you mean my life is great?
Well, and we talk about this in terms of nutrition, right? And even in the medical field, so many doctors still kind of poo-poo the fact that nutrition can help or harm.
Yeah.
In this day and age, still. So I think for so many people listening, because there's going to be people who listen to this and go, oh, thank you. I need this reminder that my body has this intelligence. And there's going to be people listening going, my mom had this, my dad, this sounds totally woo-woo, and this is the way that it is. But I challenge you, even if you completely disagree or this sounds crazy, I really do challenge you to just tune inward to the fact that you are not in control of certain processes that are happening in your body right now.
Yeah.
You do not have to beat your heart. You do not have to circulate your blood. When you get a cut, your body will heal. Yes, there might be some scar tissue, but it will heal. We are not in control of these things. So there is this intelligence that's moving through. It doesn't matter what you believe in. There is something there that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And to really just ask, what if I have more power than I thought I did?
What if just simply, what if it worked? Like Joe lying on the bed, Joe Dispenza lying on the bed, nothing else he could do.
Right.
What if it works?
Right.
Right. Well, and that's the craziest thing. I'm sure you see this all the time. I mean, I do this with our thinking. When you think about what ifs, rarely do you ever think, what if it goes right? What if it goes better than I thought?
That's such a true
it's always,
thing.
It's fear.
It's always, worst case scenario.
Especially after having a baby. I'm like all about what if I am doomsday patrol.
What if I'm
every
not
day.
holding the railing the one time when I walk down the stairs? Or what if
I
Right.
thought the chandelier was going to fall on me when I walked down the stairs.
What if everything isn't like bolted to the walls? And
I know recently Kourtney Kardashian was talking about how her son needed to have some sort of procedure. I guess her son had fluid in his lung or something, and she had watched the documentary, Heal, and she started saying things to him and praying and doing something. I don't know the exact story, and it worked.
Her baby just born?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Is this
wow,
right?
that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Did you hear about this?
And I should know more details, but I just saw the clip, and I was so grateful that like this film I did 7 years ago is still impacting people. And she just said it shifted her mindset it made her realize how important positive mindset is. And so she started just visualizing and having everybody talk and, we're going to be okay, and talking to her baby and encouraging him, and it just shifted. That subtle shift changed everything for her and, the health of her child.
I cannot imagine how great that must have felt to hear that story.
Just to hear firsthand stories like that.
And know that you made a change. You made a change in her. Like most people go, like when we do this, it's like, if I can just change one person, it's worth it. Mm-hmm. And that's an amazing one. Again, 7 years later.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You must have thousands of stories. Can you share with us just a handful of stories, what we would call miracles?
Yeah.
What are some of the miracles that you have heard or seen?
I mean, there's so many. I had a woman on the podcast a few weeks ago, and she got breast cancer, and she's just like a poster child of Heal, where she's all about holistic, and she understood that she needs to be more connected to nature. So she just did all the things, and then it spread to her brain, and she's still just. Anyway, she found a conscious oncologist. She put her feet in the sand every day. She followed her intuition. She was just did all the 10 things that the radical remission woman, Kelly Turner in Heal, said about her research, which I'll get into in a second. but breast and brain cancer without any Western treatment. And her brother-in-law had passed away from cancer, recently. Her mom passed away from cancer. So there's a lot of not great examples of cancer in her life.
Right.
And so it'd be scarier if you've lost someone recently to cancer to maybe make the choice not to do conventional therapy, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And she just tapped in and did all these things, just holistically changed her whole life, and brain and breast gone within 2 years, and all just taking a holistic approach. And again, I love this example, with cancer, we have to look at the environment that allowed the cancer to grow, whether it's genetics, then if you think of epigenetics, you may have the cancer gene, which Bruce Lipton argues that there really isn't a cancer gene. But if you could predispose to a genetic code that is more likely to develop cancer, it's the environment that is created internally and externally that toggles those genes on, and the bad genes on and the good genes off. And so we have to look at the environment that allowed the cancer to proliferate and then change it. So I'm not anti-Western medicine, like you said, so grateful. And I encourage whatever your belief system is, go that route. But understand that if you just kill the cancer with chemicals and radiation, and don't change anything about the environment, and then wiping out your immune system through that chemicals and radiation,
you're just going to keep bringing.
It's going to come back, and it's probably going to come back with a vengeance. So do what you need to do to feel that you're going down the safe path, but you have to change the environment that allowed that dis-ease, whatever that condition is, to arise in your life.
And
Absolutely.
What are some of those environments that people are dealing with?
Great question.
As far as what to look at?
Yeah, so first let's go back and then we can answer the question, because we're throwing around the word epigenetics. What does that mean for people who don't know?
Yeah. It's it's epigenetics. I think epi means above. So epidermis, your layer of skin. I keep hitting this microphone.
That's okay. Happens all the time.
I must be Italian. So you got your genetic codes, that's the blueprint, and then you have this layer epigenetics, and which is, the environment signals which genes turn on and off, the switches.
What regulates?
What up and down regulates.
Regulates.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so just like at the Petri dish, that environment, the different cultures turned one stem cell into bone, one stem cell into blood cells, one stem cell into
muscle.
Muscle. Thank you. So that's epigenetics, and then Kelly Turner was in Heal, and she started studying. She was doing her PhD in some sort of cancer treatments, and she was started to hear about all these spontaneous remission stories, but they were just being discounted as anomalies. And she's like, no, hold on, these people are healing.
How?
Pancreatic cancer, radical cancers. We should be studying them. So she studied 1,500 cases ish of people who were told they had terminal cancer, nothing they could do, and they healed. So they were basically sent home to die, and then all of a sudden they're healed. So she discovered they all did these 10 things, and we might have to open the book if I don't think of them all. But and in the film it says 9, but then she added later, she went back to the research, and movement and exercise is the 10th.
Got you.
So out of the 10, 3 were physical. The rest are mental, emotional, and spiritual. And that to me says everything. And her research specifically applies to cancer, but I say it applies to all chronic illness. And so we really need to, when we're treating a disease and trying to get our body back into its homeostasis and ease and flow and health, we have to approach it from the mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical.
Absolutely.
And so movement is one, radically changing your diet is one, using herbs and supplements is one, following your intuition, which again, you go into a doctor, they tell you this is your prognosis, and there's something inside of you that says, that is not my future,
Right.
that is not, that's your intuition going, do not buy into this. And our intuition is not ever going to lead us astray. It's just we have to clear out the distortions so we can tap into it again. Social support, embracing social support. There's plenty of cancer studies that people that go to support groups like Heal 50% more effectively. What are some of the other ones? Taking responsibility, I think. So that's a big one.
That is a big one. Say more about that from your understanding of what that means.
I mean, it's one of the biggest pieces of why it's so easy to stay in victimhood. If you're debilitated, and like every person is going to feel why me, poor me, screw whoever, and it's easy to stay there. But that energy, that frequency is very disempowered and very low, and it just zaps your life force. So we're human, have that moment, have many little moments of that, but then get back to, okay, there's a lesson and a blessing in here for me. I'm going to get through this. Finding strong reasons for living is one. So, whether it's your family that motivates you, whether it's your purpose, whether it's just your love for life and the things that you've done, and you dig deep and you go, okay, it's happening. Rather than spending energy that I need to heal in resisting reality, it's like, this is my reality. I have to deal with it. Victim, no more. You take responsibility for your health and you say, this is my reality. I surrender. I accept. And all of that energy that we're subconsciously spending on resisting what is can now be used in your body to start healing. And responsibility doesn't mean blame. Like you're not at fault for getting cancer. You're not at fault for getting rheumatoid arthritis. It's like, but once you become aware that stress, being out of alignment with your purpose, being in the wrong relationship, whatever these things are that maybe we've just kind of ignored in our life, start to become aware that these things do have an effect on our health.
Right.
And like you said, it's a wake-up call to get us back on track and to just start looking at every area of your life, starting with that list of 10, and see what needs to perhaps change for you to get back into vitality and alignment.
Yes. The taking responsibility thing, I hear that, and I hear, okay, taking responsibility for your health and knowing that you can do something about it and what that path is. But also the stuff from the past where we do end up blaming people, and we have for so long. I mean, I know in my life, I blamed people for a long time. This is why I am the way that I am. This is why I don't feel this. This is why I am not enough, and I'm this and I'm that. And the thing is it's good to recognize that. That's why therapy at some point, it's like, it's good to understand that, but staying in that will never break you out of that cycle. And holding on to that too long, like you said, it's toxic. I really feel that it creates that toxic environment.
That's a big mistake though, that people make with therapy that I notice. Like, a lot of people will get in, it's like, sure, it's fun when you're just pointing at everybody else and pointing out the problems and what brought you to this. But then the real work is going, okay, like, I'm done being this way. So I'm done pointing the finger at everybody. Now I'm going to point the finger at me and pay attention to the things that I don't like, and I'm going to work on changing it. To me, that's the hard work. When you start looking at yourself and going, okay,
you are the common denominator.
Yeah.
Right?
Like,
of all the
okay,
things that
I've
happen
learned all
in your
of these
life,
behaviors from other things, and things brought me to this, but I don't want to be this person anymore. I don't want to do these things. I don't want to hurt people the way I do. I don't want to have the inability to listen or be compassionate or be kind to people. I don't want to, I'm not this kid anymore that went through these things. But that's the hard part.
It is. I mean, it's the whole idea too of life is happening to me, and all these things are happening to me versus life is happening for me.
Right. I love these 10 steps, and I so agree with you. It's honestly not just about cancer. It is about anything, even not just disease, but just where you are in your life, whether it's physical, mental, emotional. I think these 10 steps are absolutely incredible to have a look at and go, what can I change? And at the end of the day, it's about taking control. It's about, instead of blaming and saying it's that person's fault, you give them all the power. You go, okay, what can I do about it? Go through the 10 steps. I can change my environment. I can radically change my diet. I can, you can look at all these things and take these steps, maybe not all at once, like bite sizes, and get there slowly, because that could be overwhelming. But it really it puts you back in the saddle. You have the reins. And I think that's so important to know. And so cool that there is a written out 10 steps that you have where you can actually look at them and understand them, because that's also overwhelming. Change my environment. What do you mean? How do I change my, I can't move my house. Like it's such a broad statement for people to go, well, I can't do that. I don't have the ability to. But these 10 steps make that accessible for everyone to look at and go, okay, what can I tackle right now? And then when things start to feel better, that has a domino effect. Like then other stuff starts to feel better. Then you feel more capable of some of the other steps that are in that list. And before you know it, you're at step 10. I want people to understand too, like, even though we talk about this as like for cancer or big things, people have been through traumatic experiences to get to this work, you really don't need to. It doesn't matter where you are in life, you can start these steps. We can all do something to make our own lives better, to better ourselves from the inside. You don't need to experience dis-ease or disease to start this work.
No, hopefully.
Like, don't wait for that.
Yeah, don't wait for that.
You know?
You could start now.
Yeah, it's for everyone. It's not just for people going through something traumatic.
And chronic illness takes a long time to develop into your body, and our bodies heal so much faster than it actually takes illness to develop in our body, because it's so many things have to break down over time. And it's just like you said, whether it's a physical challenge that you're going to have to face, or divorce, or loss of job, or these things that really make us look at our lives and self-reflect, and blame for a while, and then kind of look back at ourselves. They're all, I lost my train of thought, but it starts as like a little whisper.
Right.
Like you said, it starts to whisper, and we're so good at like ignoring things that we don't want to hear. Then it gets a little louder with something else, and then maybe it's like, boom, car crash, you're in bed with a cast on, so you're forced to like look at something. So.
Right, absolutely.
Totally stupid
you don't
question.
get warnings well, you do, I guess, but you don't necessarily listen to them, right? Until it's so in front of you that you can't ignore it.
Absolutely stupid question. I've now heard all three of you refer to it, and this is for people that are hearing it and going, why dis-ease instead of disease? Oh, yeah. Why? Is it a different perspective?
I will let the professionals answer that question. I'll butcher it.
This is the new agey way of saying disease, but really, if you break down the word, the etymology of the word, it's ease. There's ease, and then there's dis-ease. And if you look at, sorry, I don't need an answer for you, but if you look at something that is not right in the body, there is a something is stopping the flow of ease, so there's dis-ease.
It's just, that's an interesting perspective, I think, for people in hearing it pronounced that way and hearing that example of going, it feels more like, oh, you have control over this. Whereas to me, growing up, a disease is like, oh, you've got something in your system that you have.
Can't do anything about.
You should just bust your ass to try and get that out, like it's some monster that's in you.
Some entity.
But then you hear disease and you go, oh, okay, so I actually have a little more control over this. It's a cool, and it's simple, and again, stupid question, but it's
actually
like
a brilliant question, because it's how you framed it. I've never thought of it. It just was a natural way that like looking at what health is. Ease. It's how we're designed. We're meant to be healthy, thrive, and be in alignment with what we came to do, with our environment, with our community. And when
working against it, and things going on are creating this dis-ease. So it's like, okay, let's just get the dis out of the word.
Right.
Let's get back to the ease, and we're good.
Yeah.
But the conventional train of thought looks at disease as something that's like in you.
It's a monster that's in your system,
that's
right?
Gotten out
I've
of
seen
whack.
this alien movie before.
Right. There's something out of alignment. What do I need to do to get back into alignment is such a softer way of looking at it versus, you talked about conditioning, and we are so conditioned to think of other words, right? You hear one word and all of a sudden your body constricts and you shut down and your shoulders go forward and you're like, oh my gosh, this is a terrible thing. So reframing words to work in a way.
Disease reminds me of the movie Alien. Like, I'm thinking right away, there's something in me that, but like it's exactly. Exactly. Diseases. So I love that. So, okay, sorry.
Great question. It's a great question.
Good question.
I'm just going to throw the dumb ones in there every once in a while.
A subtle shift in perspective can change your whole life.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's important too, because I think people who have certain context and speak a certain language, it's really easy to talk about things and go, well, wait a second, why are we saying this, or what does that actually mean, and really breaking it down, because we kind of take those things for granted.
Yeah.
I wanted to know what you've obviously done a lot of healing yourself. You've been interested in this for a long time. What has been one of the most profound healings that you have had in your life?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I'm just thinking of like what's going on. And the reason I brought up that control thing is because for so long I'm like, oh, manifester, and I understand law of attraction, and all, I've got a great life, and then I just find that life, it's such a spiritual quest for me, and like all healing is spiritual. And I'll tell one of the most fascinating healing stories, and then I'll go into what's going on with me, is Anita Moorjani in the film. And when I heard her story, that was when I was finally ready to do the film. I was like, this is everything to me, because she is the poster child of heal. She had stage 4 cancer, lymphoma, lemon-sized tumors coming out of her neck to her abdomen. Like, they couldn't find a vein anymore. She had been battling cancer. She had tried Indian Ayurvedic, because she's Indian, that she's also living in Hong Kong, so she tried Western medicine. She lost her best friend to cancer. There was a lot of factors, and she did it all, came at from every angle, and she was losing her battle in a coma on the hospital bed. And the doctors were telling her husband to, say goodbyes. Mm-hmm. She has a near-death experience. She leaves her body. She enters the other realm and has this, like, just expands, into this love and peace that passes human understanding and is indescribable. And she has this all-knowingness. There's no time and space collapse. And she encounters the essence of her father, who had passed away. And they had a very tumultuous relationship in life, because he was very Hindu. She didn't do the arranged marriage. It was just all of that. And in that interaction, there was no judgment. Everything, it was just this, like, love that couldn't, beyond description. And she just knew, in this telepathic, all-knowing moment of a second, knew that she developed cancer because she came at everything in life from fear. And he said, go back and live your life without fear. And she's like, I don't want to go back to that body. This feels fantastic.
Right.
And I'm with my dad. And she knew that if she went back into her body, she would heal. And so she reanimated her body, recounted stories that no human could ever hear that were like 40 feet down the hall. She had awareness of her brother flying in from India, like things that you couldn't possibly know, but she was in the consciousness. And she kept telling people, I'm going to heal, I'm going to heal. And the doctor's like, okay, she's lost her mind, she's hallucinating. And within 3 weeks, no cancer in her body. 5 weeks, she left the hospital.
3
weeks? Wait, what?
Yeah, her body completely, her physical body, because of a shift in consciousness, completely healed. And no, there's not a human being on this planet that could see her and think that she could come back to life. That shows the tremendous intelligence. If we get out of the way, but also support the intelligence of the human body with the right divine consciousness of who we really are, that's when miracles happen. But they're not really miracles. That's like how we're designed. That's how awesome. And that's how much possibility there is in every moment.
I hope that excites everyone as much as it excites me to hear that. That's how we're designed.
Yeah.
That is possible. And by the way, the near-death experience, and there's many different forms of that, are common. Yeah. It's not like for a select few. There's tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, if not more, of cases that I don't know if they went into spontaneous healing such as that, but that is incredible.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I've had a very intense 2 years of my life. I can't share too much because it's all very personal, but in recent months, like, it just feels like everything is like going wrong. And, since having a kid, I used to be a runner, and I didn't run. My child's 5, and so being pregnant for the 9 months prior to that, I didn't run because it just didn't feel right. Some people do, and that's great. So I haven't run for 6 years, and running to me used to be like I get out on the road, I'd be training for a marathon or just running, 3 to 5 miles. And not only did I feel great, but I got to have solitude. I got to listen to something inspiring or just music, and it was my time. And my whole life for 20 years I was doing that. And I haven't had that. And it's been an intense time in the world with COVID and then just personally. And so I had the opportunity to run the New York Marathon this November. But I haven't been able to run since I gave birth because I have this pelvic floor thing. I went back to playing tennis too quickly, and my pelvic floor didn't heal properly. So when I run, jump, or sneeze, this is a little gross, but it's real.
I get it.
I
pee
pee.
comes out.
I
Yeah.
pee.
Yep.
And so I've done all the things. I've sat on the Emsella. I've done pelvic floor work. I've let time heal. I've done the mantras, the manifestations, the meditations, the gratitude journaling. I've done it all.
Yeah.
It's still not healing. It's gotten way better, but if I run, I have to wear black leggings and it's pee all down the thing.
Yeah.
Super classy, I know. But it's
That's
relevant.
real. It's real.
real.
Girl,
Yeah.
so real.
But so I haven't run. But now I'm like, it's 18 weeks before the marathon. I've got to start putting miles, or I'm gonna be walking this thing, and that's just humiliating for me. So I say, I've done what I can. I'm just gonna trust that my body's gonna heal the rest of the way. So I run a couple times, and it's just like I'm wearing and nobody can really tell, but I know, and it's not comfortable. It's not fun.
Right.
But I'm like, it's going to get better. It's going to get better. Then I interview on my podcast Rob Worgan from the Heal. He's the energy healer from Heal. And I interviewed him last Thursday or Friday. And I'm in Michigan, and I'm telling him this. And he's like, well, let's just do a little healing. And he's just a channel of light. He usually doesn't want to know what's going on because he just wants it to be bespoke to whatever you need. And he just gets out of it. He's just the channel. So we do the thing, and then we talk about how I asked him, well, why do people not heal when they work with you? Some people have these miraculous healings, and then other people don't heal. What have you learned about people that don't heal? And he says, we've got to learn to be grateful for everything. We really have to have that faith that life is happening for you and not to you. And so the people that heal are the ones that are just like, get out of their way and just... they're done. They're ready to fully surrender and be grateful for everything. And he says, but the problem is you're grateful, or you have an affirmation and you look in the mirror and you say, I'm healthy, or you write, I'm grateful that I'm healed, but then it's your second and third thought that come in. And so when he asked the guides, why are people not healing? He said, they need to listen to their second and third thought. It's beyond that gratitude. And so I was like, wow, that's so good. And then he talked about once you learn the lesson, you let it go, and or you either have less on or you're more on because you hold on to these things, or whatever, which was cool. So, anyways, all of that was setting me up. The next morning, I go out for a run. I'm like, well, we'll see, and I'm trying not to be like, I gotta prove if Rob's working or not. And so I go out on the road. I start to pee a little, but it's less, and I'm like, oh, of course, it's not going to work. What am I thinking? This energy healer's going to work. I've been trying for 6 years. Anyways, then I hear the word. I start to be grateful. I'm like, well, at least it's better. I'm grateful that it's better. It's getting better every day. Grateful. And then I'm like a second and third thought. Okay, a little doubt. Okay, grateful. No, it's getting better. I'm just going to focus on that. Then I heard the thing, think about the lesson. Anyways, my whole life, like many of us, I've tried to be in control, whether it's people pleasing to control people's perception of me, finances, and working hard to control my perceived safety, the illusion of safety. All of these things, I've been expending so much energy trying to control the areas of my life so that I feel safe. And I'm now 45, very old-ish, and the world is crashing down on me in the last 2 years, and then I get a puppy, and I'm like, that's the straw that you just all control goes out the window. The bottom line is I start to go, oh my gosh, I'm trying so hard I'm at a breaking point of trying to control things. And you get to a point in your 40s where you just you need to stop people pleasing. You need to just not care what people think. All of these things are coming to a head. And the lesson is stop. You have to let go. You have to let go of trying to control things and trust. The bladder, not having control over your bladder or that sphincter is So it's like, if you're not going to let control, I'm going to force you into submission.
Yeah.
So it was this real, like, I'm not being very articulate, but it was that was the lesson. I was like, okay, I will let go. I will let go in every area of my life. I get it. I get the lesson. I'm letting go. I'm trusting. I can't hold on for safety anymore. Like, I have to look within and just trust in life and trust in the divine plan. Anyways, I swear after that, the pee stopped.
What?
I promise you.
Wow.
That's unreal.
That's why I'm sharing the story, because it's so mind-blowing. But it was such a profound lesson to me, and I probably am not landing the story very well. But then I went out for another run, and it's like a little trickle at the beginning, but pants are dry. I got the lesson. I'm letting go. And there's an expansiveness that I'm feeling now, too. And then I interviewed someone yesterday for my podcast, and he told me this Zen proverb where the teacher, which again is in line with this lesson that I keep learning, and it's landing now. He says, the teacher goes to the student, the Zen teacher goes to the student, you want the good news or the bad news? And the student's like, the bad news? And he goes, bad news is life is like free falling through air with nothing to grasp onto. You're just flailing. It's just whoosh. And he's like, oh, God, what's the good news? He said, the good news is there's no bottom, which means we can let go. It has that illusion of fear and terror, but if there's no bottom, you can just let go.
There's no splat.
Relax. There's no splat. Just stop grasping. Relax, expand, join hands with the people you want to join hands with, have fun in the sky, and just like let go and flow,
I love that.
Yeah.
So all of these things have happened in the last week to me,
That
and I just
absolutely changes my perspective on so
it's changed so much.
Right? I could feel myself
Yeah,
start
you
to
let
relax.
go.
Right. That's so beautiful. I also really want to highlight that you said the second and third thought thing, because I think that's so beautiful to pay attention to, because I don't do that at all. That's an aha moment for me when I'm battling against things or things I'm trying to control. Whatever it is, I'm not getting what I want out of something. Why is it not happening? The second and third
That
thought.
truly is manifesting, though, right? Like completely believing in what it is you want. Like on every level. So second thought, third thought, all of it. It's like, you're never second guessing yourself in it.
Right.
But there's also understanding what's blocking it, right? So
it's the lesson.
It's the lesson that you need. You'd like believing in it and manifesting and visualizing and all of that. I know I do that very powerfully, but there are certain times in my life where it's like, why is that not working? But there's a lesson that I'm not picking up on that I need to see and understand first before those things can manifest.
And so you're doing the practice, but then the second and third thought allows you to go deeper, because you're then saying your gratitude, saying your affirmation, doing whatever it is that your practice, but then you're expanding your awareness to notice what is the next thought that comes in.
Yeah.
And then as you start to pay attention to your thoughts, then that starts to be clues about what these subconscious beliefs are, or where these areas are that you need to heal or look at,
What's blocking. I love that. I'm going to use that.
So amazing.
Before we end, for now, just curious, what's next for you? Because I feel like you have a whole lot more
going on. There's
not
something
going
in New
on.
Zealand. There's stuff happening.
Just what is creatively, what else do you want to tell? What's in you right now?
It's a great question. So much. I mean, I don't know. There is an idea of another film. Everybody, for 7 years, everyone's like, "When's Heels 2? When's Heels 2?"
It's amazing.
I think it's time. Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I don't know that it'll be Heal 2, because it's just so hard. There's so many. We share some of the healers and doctors that we all get to. That's like, who would I choose to put in this film?
Right.
So, but it is an adjacent, very important one that touches upon some of the things we've talked about. So that's starting to marinate. And as you all know, like, you have to have real passion and conviction, like, especially when making a film, like, you got to know that thing needs to be made so that you can overcome all the minutiae and the challenges that come up along the way. So there's that. I'm doing an event with Gaia in November which is cool because I'm bringing some of the big heal experts back together, and people have been asking like, do a heal event, and I just haven't had the bandwidth. And so that'll be fun, like Anthony William and Peter Crone, Greg Braden, some of the big guys from the film, and gals, obviously. So people can, get some firsthand experience with them, which will be cool.
To be in that environment is powerful,
absolutely.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
And then, we just changed it to Heal with Kelly, the podcast, because everything was Heal documentary and Heal book, and we wanted to put it under one big umbrella. But ultimately what I'm doing, just like talking about the intense last 2 years and the bladder, like I'm always looking to heal myself and
so
to get out of my
come heal with me.
Yeah, come heal with me. Like I'm going to excavate. I have a lot of resources. This is my passion, and as I learn and discover about myself, I want to share with you. So that'll be the continued thread throughout my whole life, and I'm not sure how that's gonna outpicture, but those are some of the things that we're going for.
Please tell everyone where they can find you and where they can find this amazing book and where they can find the movie. I was going to say movie, but the film that you did, because I think everyone needs to know more about you in this.
Thank you guys for having me. This has been very fun. You could follow us on Instagram at Heal with Kelly, or at my personal is Kelly Gores. Healwithkelly.co is the website that has any events, content, podcast, and then of course the Heal with Kelly podcast is anywhere podcasts are found.
Well, thank you for sharing yourself and your passion and your light and tenacity of just diving into this and not stopping.
Sharing your resources too, like knowing that you have this access and you would like, I need to share this with everyone else. Everyone else needs to know this information, because it's not easy to come by if you're not in the world or in a moment of wanting to find out. But now with what you're doing, and hopefully it touches more and more people and they can go down that route. I absolutely love it. Kelly, thank you for joining us. To everyone that is here listening with us right now, thank you so much for tuning in. We love you. We appreciate you. If you have not already, please like and subscribe, because it really does help us so much. It helps us create amazing content, bring on incredible guests, and do the thing that we do here at Oldish. So please tap that button if you can. And if you are interested in watching your podcasts, we do actually offer that now. You can head over to oldishpodcast.com, where you can see all the options to just hit the subscribe button. You'll be able to check them out. If you are watching us right now, stay tuned for after the show.
Hey, if you're going through something right now, if you need additional support, then please reach out to me at randyspelling.com/help, or go to my Instagram at randyspelling. Thanks.